Andrew, man, how do I start? So we connected through Stacy, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey, you guys have to connect. Andrew's got a great journey of his own that he would love to share." So we were able to sit down and have a 20-minute call, got to know each I think it went over 20 minutes if I'm right,
It
which is
probably
just
did, yeah.
right? Uh,
Yeah.
which made it even more exciting to talk to you and have you come on, and you decided to become part of the anthologies coming out later this year, sometime in May, June. And I'm excited for that to see what you bring to the table in that chapter that you decide to write. But I would love for you to start and share part of your journey here on the podcast. And I would love for you to open up with, who's Andrew today? What are you most passionate about? And then I would love to dive into like, how did you get to where you are today?
All right. So I'm Andrew. I'm 41 years old. I'm a proud father to two grown sons. I'm a person in recovery. I've been in recovery for just over 25 months now. I'm certified health, life, and recovery coach. You know, I'm really passionate about the outdoors, number one, because when I was in active addiction, you tend to hide away and isolate a lot, so like going outside, unless it was dark out, where it's like nothing that I really enjoyed. I mean, unless, going to and from work, but that's about it, really. I was one of those people that would take a, 2 a.m. trip to Walmart where when nobody else was there, just to not have to be around people. But like today, I love getting outside. I walk between 3 and 5 miles every day. I've been going back to the gym now. This is my third month. I'm in my 12th week going back to the gym. I like going to, because there's tons of places around here, to hike and like walking trails and things like that. I'm an hour drive from the mountains, and anywhere in between, like there's all kinds of great greenways and stuff. So I like to get out every weekend and go explore, and go walk a new trail or whatever. Um, you know, I I just enjoy being outside, like nature, like that's my church pretty much, I guess is a good way to put it, and I'm very passionate about my recovery. Like I don't have a problem sharing my testimony and talking about the things that I struggled with and that I've been fortunate enough to live through and to persevere, you know what I'm saying, and to make it out on this side, because there's a whole lot of people that are still suffering in silence out there that think, nobody cares about them, or that, you know, they're the only ones that feel, a certain type of way. And that's really not the case, so um, I've shared my testimony in several Facebook groups already. I've shared a little bit of that on Stacy's Facebook Live, and I did podcast just this past Friday, the Deal to Heal podcast with Ernest James. I think you know him too, maybe. He's not a part of the book, but yeah, he's somebody else that Stacy introduced me to, and so I did a spot on his podcast and talked about that a little bit too. So like I'm all about getting out and sharing my struggles and my testimony and the things that I've overcome that were, everything that was really sent to kill me. Cause like I honestly should probably be dead several times over now, and like to still be here. I'm definitely grateful for it now, to be on this side of life. And I'm super grateful, thankful, happy, what I'm saying, that I'm still here, and I'm eager and excited to see this journey that I'm on, and like the path that God has me on right now, like where that's going to lead to.
That's great. Yeah. And so what kind of outcome are you looking for as you start sharing about your journey and going on other platforms or writing in the book? What are you trying to inspire and encourage others that are going through the same thing?
I mean, that they're not alone, and that, change is possible, and that you can pull yourself out of these deep and dark places, but you've got to want it bad enough. You have to be willing to put in the work. It's not just thinking and wishing about it is not going to be enough. I mean, I thought and wished, you know what I'm saying, that and prayed for something to be different for, years, but until I actually started putting in the work and actually taking necessary steps to better myself and things like that, did I actually start to get better. So, you know, it's and just you're never too far gone. Like I myself thought that, especially at the very end of my addiction, that I was too far gone, that I couldn't be saved, that I wasn't never going to amount to anything else, and to see where I'm at now, I mean, that was all just lies that the devil was feeding me, right? So, that's what I want to do. And like, I do these podcasts and I get on these different platforms and I'm a part of this book because that's exposure, and I'm certified coach. I'm trying to get that up and going and off the ground. And Ernest asked me, Stacy asked me, a couple other different people that I've spoken to and done guest spots on have asked me, have you ever thought about being a speaker? And like, yeah, I really have, but I'm kind of, I don't really know where to go with all of that, you know what I'm saying, or how to get into it or get my feet wet or anything. And to like, I actually did a call last week with Emilio also, who's doing the forward for your book.
Mhm.
And he gave me some good contacts, points of contacts, and invited me to come to his event in August. If I'm able to go to that, I'm definitely going to go if if possible. And then Ernest James also gave me some great contact information and stuff, about that as well. So, and just I've never been one to really take up the opportunities that have been in front of me. Like I could be in a completely different position in my life right now if I would have taken a lot of opportunities that were placed in front of me before. But, when God was knocking or he was calling on the phone, like I didn't answer because one, I didn't want to. And then two, it was really a lack of self confidence. Or, I was always too worried about, well, what if, like, what is so and so going to think about me? What are these people going to think, if I go and pursue this or if I do this, they're going to laugh at me. They're going to think I'm weird or, blah, 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 whatever. Like, now, you know, I'm going to be 42 in July. So like over half of my life is gone. And I realized that. And it's like at this point, like when I first got clean, I was like, what do you really have to lose, Andrew? I mean, the worst thing is going to happen is you going to end right back up where you started now. But like, why don't you give recovery a chance? Start taking these opportunities and trying to do things, you know what I'm saying? And just see what happens. I mean, so I've done a pretty good job of that, getting out here networking, meeting people like Stacy, like you and Ernest and a few others, like and me continuing to do the work that I need to do by networking and doing these spots and stuff like that and getting on these platforms and speaking is just going to continue to open up more doors. And like the more I do it, the more I'm in a position that whenever God finally says, okay, it's time and opens the doors for me, that I'm going to be standing in that hallway and I'm going to be able to walk through those doors. So,
Mhm. That'd be great. Yeah, so you're definitely taking some opportunities, you're taking some risks, right? And seeing where it takes you, right? And
yep.
wherever God's taking you in that direction, whatever that path is, sometimes we just don't know, and we don't know how long it's going to take, right?
Yep.
So getting to this point, right? You experienced some addiction and everything. What was that like for you? Like, I mean, why'd you start? Like, can you share with us why you even started?
Well, I mean, a majority of us, I guess, we're all young and dumb, and most of us party and experiment with drinking and smoking pot and stuff like that in high school, and college. And when I was in college, I also started fibbing in ecstasy. Then that led to cocaine and excuse me, I was on that stuff for a couple of years and got into minor trouble about that stuff. And I was like, I just couldn't continue on that path. It was like either clean up or I was not going to have a place to live. So at that time, I got clean and was straight. Had my two boys and was doing great for that. Kind of got back into some cocaine again when they were really young with their mom. And then after we split up, I got cleaned up again because, you know, she wasn't around. I really didn't have much of a choice. I had the boys. I was back here at mom and dad's. And then my other ex I met is the one that turned me on to the meth. And that was a 14-year journey to hell that I don't wish on my worst enemy, really. And it really just started off as like, just at the end of the month, all our bills were paid and everything, like, hey, let's go get a little bit, and party, enjoy the weekend or whatever. And like that slowly progressed over years, from 2010 to 2014, 2015, maybe it was about like that. And then 2015 is when it really started to, start grabbing a little bit stronger of a hold. And then, so it went from being just at the end of the month, type of thing to like every week or every weekend and then every week and then every day. And, you know, by mid 2016, I was going through myself was going through like 7 grams, like a quarter ounce a week, which I mean, that's a lot of meth, like to be doing like a day, a gram a day, a little over a gram a day. And that's pretty much where I stayed at for the next several years. I bought a house in 2018, or no, in 2017, February 2017, October 2018. It was foreclosed, and I was moving in to a shed on the dope man's property and lived there for about 5 months. And he ended up going to jail. Here's a strange old lady comes back, kicks us out, and yeah, it's moved from couch to couch from that point for several more months. And like it was just, I mean, at that point, it was just habit, really. I mean, you can try and stop, but when it's got its claws in you, I mean, that's pretty tough to shake. Like, I mean, meth to me, and from what I've heard from a lot of other people in the recovery community, like that's one of the hardest drugs to break because of the flood of dopamine that it floods your brain with. It's like, I don't know, it's well over 1,000% more than like, a normal dopamine hit, or more than like a line of cocaine or whatever. So it's pretty intense. And it it wasn't fun anymore, but I needed it to be able to function, to be normal. So, I mean, when it's got a grip on you like that, it's like you make a choice pretty much, like you do this and not have to be sick, and you have energy to go be a functioning adult. You know what I mean? Like I was a very high functioning addict. Like I kept a job almost the whole time that I was on it. Like I went to work every day just like a normal person, but I was twacked out of my mind when I was doing it. And I was so good at hiding it that nobody knew. I mean, they might have suspected, and maybe they knew, but they didn't bother to say anything to me. I think there were a couple people at one of the jobs I worked at Technobuilt, that had asked me about it before, and I would just, like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, no, no, you're freaking crazy, brush it off or whatever. But like, really, I'm like, okay, I really need to get a control of myself if they're starting to think this stuff, because you don't want them going back to your supervisor and saying all this stuff, right? But I mean, it it all started out as just, you know, divvying around and stuff, really, is where it come from. And I used to have a really addictive personality anyway, and I was always one of the followers. I was never really a leader. So, it was just, if I saw other people doing stuff, especially in college and high school, like it was like, hey, I want to be like them. They look like they're having fun doing this stuff. So like, why don't I go give that a try? Like, and just trying to be in with the cool kids or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, is where it started at. And then that just, continued on like in my life. It was like, well, and then once you get hooked, it's just, well, you're just kind of stuck here until you really, I mean, you're not going to change until you're ready to change. Right. So, and that took a long time. I mean, I did try numerous times, but I was maybe successful for a couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months at the most, or something like that. It always, because I wasn't really doing any work inside to fix the parts or the things in my mind and stuff that drove me to use, or that triggered me to use. And I wasn't really, I wasn't replacing the nouns in my life, the people, places, and things that I needed to be changing and eliminating in my life to be able to live a better life and to be able to get away from all that. I was still hanging around with the same people, still going all the same places, and, doing all the same things. So like, all I was really doing was just trying to put the substance down. And you're never going to be successful in recovery if you just stop using. You've got to you've got to do like a complete 180 on your life to be able to be successful. And it took me a long time to finally realize that. Wow.
Yeah. So, what was that pivotal point that you had to start making a change?
Well, I mean, there were from 2020 until I got clean in February of 24, there were more than a handful of times that I went driving and I had no intention on coming back from those drives. Um, you know, I was just really beat down, broken, lost, a shell of the former person that I used to be. Um, I didn't know how to show up for my kids. They would ask me to, Dad, can you come and watch us here tonight or watch us this ball game? And I always had an excuse for why I couldn't. And, you know, truth be known, I was running the roads, chasing the dope man, or just chasing a dragon, getting high, like. And but I always, oh, so and so's car broke down. I had to go help them, or I had to go do this, or this happened with, you know, with my ex, and like blah blah blah, or something happened with the cats because we used to have a bunch of cats too. And but it was always something. And in 2023, there was, you know, by 2023, fentanyl was starting to show up in everything, or if you don't know, but so like fentanyl was starting to show up in everything, like, and around here, a lot of people in our group, like that we used with, like 4 or 5 of them had died from fentanyl poisoning, had gotten a bag of meth or something, and it was laced with fentanyl, and they died. So it was like, at that time, I knew that, basically every time I went and got another bag every week, that I was playing Russian roulette, really. It was like, put the bullet in, spin it, and pull it, and, just seeing how many more times was I gonna be able to go and get a bag, on Thursday, just like clockwork. Like, how many more times was I gonna be able to do that before I was driving home, or I was at home, in the bathroom, get high, and my bag was gonna be laced with fentanyl, and that was gonna be it, you know. And part of me at that time was almost okay with that, really, because I had kind of accepted that that was gonna be, that was my destiny pretty much. And so I knew something had to change, and I, you know, just looked up at the sky several times when I would be driving and or laying in my bed here, tracked down my mind wide awake at night, just bug eyed, just staring at the freaking ceiling fan spinning. Um, just like, I need some help with this. Whoever, God, if you're up there, the universe, whoever you are up there that's listening to me, like, I need some help. Like, I can't do this by myself. And so in November of 2023, because I asked for a clean break. Because at that time, I, not being in my right mind, I figured if I went to work and said, hey, I need some help, I need to be able to step away from this because I can't stop by myself. Like, I need to go get, if I told them this and admitted to using illicit drugs, that they were probably going to be like, oh, well, okay, just get your stuff and, go on out the door. Like, we don't need you here, And so I never bothered to go ask for help or anything. And, so I just continued. So I got a clean break within a month. I was right back at it again. Um, because at that time he went to jail for a month. My former dealer went to jail for a month. So I got clean. He gets out and he calls me, of course, because anytime he went to jail and he come out, he'd call me because I would always give him the money to be able to go get straight again and run the roads with him. He would always take care of me, blah blah, whatever. And he did, and I was like, dude, I was like, man, I was like, I've been clean the last 4 or 5 weeks. I was like, I don't want to anymore. Like, I don't need to be living like that, more, And he's like, well, think about it. You know where I'm going to be at, blah, 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 whatever. And at that time, the way I've described it to everybody else, and this is pretty accurate. Most people, especially, you hear people talk about and you see in the cartoons, like most of the time there's a angel on this shoulder and a devil on this shoulder, that are in your ear about stuff. At that point in my life, I had a devil and a devil. So, of course, they're going to win. I mean, it was only a matter of time, like before I gave in. And so I end up running the roads and everything. And I'm at his apartment and sitting in the bathroom, looking in the mirror, getting ready to roll a bowl again. And I'm looking at myself as I'm taking that first hit. And I'm like, you dummy, because then, only then did it hit me that that was what I had been praying for, essentially. That was the clean break that I had, like, and I screwed it up. So at that point it was like, well, screw it. I had so much guilt and shame and disappointment, really, I guess, in myself for not being strong enough to be able to withstand that temptation, that I was like, okay, well, obviously it's not meant for me to get clean. So you know what, I want to get so far out there that I'm not going to be able to come back. I wanted to get so far out there that either I was going to die, or I was going to be so gone mentally that, there was definitely not going to be any coming back from this. And 6 weeks went by of me being like that. And I had I met him on a Wednesday and gave him money to go down the road with, like I'd done hundreds of times over 5.5 years. And he goes down the road, and when he comes back, he doesn't contact me. And I'm blowing his phone up that whole night. The next day at work, I went by his apartment, beat on his door. I could hear him and his kids and his old lady like in the apartment, but he's not answering the door. And he kept playing this game of, like, oh, I've not got it yet, blah, 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 blah. Like, bullshit, dude. Like, I see you active on Facebook in hours that you would not be active if, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you really didn't have, like, don't tell me that. Like, and finally I was just like, you know what? I just sent him a message. Like, I was like, you know what? If you need that 250 bad enough, keep it. I don't want it. I'm writing it off to the game, like I've done plenty other times with other people before, like, I don't need it, you know, golf, whatever. And like, deleted him, blocked him, his old lady, and like anybody else associated with it. And I was just like, screw it, I'm done. And over the next couple days, I had some really bad mental breakdowns. I think part of it was when you come off of meth, and even when you're on meth, like, you go through like this psychosis. And it's, again, nothing that I wish on any of my enemies, or anybody else for that matter, to have to go through and experience this. But it was just driving me crazy. And I had these mental breakdowns. Like, I had a couple, like I had like two of these, like each day for like 2 or 3 days in a row at work, where I would just go into the bathroom and just bawl my eyes out over nothing. Like, and looking back now, it was my soul, and it was, really begging me and screaming to me, like, you've got to do something, Andrew. Like, you cannot continue to live like this. And it was also God, putting me through that, like, showing me, like, look, if you continue down this path, like, you're not going to be here much longer. And so at that point, I was at such a low, like, to me, I didn't, like, I hit rock bottom, but that was like the basement under, or below rock bottom for me, pretty much, at that point. And at that point, I was like, well, what else do you have to lose, Andrew? Like, let's go talk to my supervisor at the time, and let's just be honest about what's going on, because the worst thing they're going to do is fire you. If they do that, then at least you can go get some help regardless. But so either they're going to support me and going to get the help and hold my job, or they're going to fire me and I'm going to end up going to get help anyway. So I went and talked to him. He said, have you talked to the HR manager, about this?" And I was like, "I come to you first because you're my boss." You know what I'm saying? And he was like, "Well, let's go in the office and let's talk to her right now." And so we did, and we came up with a plan where I didn't have to use all my vacation time because they said, "Well, how long are you going to be out?" And I was like, "I have no idea." You know what I mean? I was like, "I just know that I need to go away for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks." I was like, to get my mind right before I go freaking crazy. Like, and they said, "Well," and she told me about FMLA no pay, which, you sign up for that and you don't get paid for it, but you don't accrue any kind of attendance points or anything else. Like, they hold your job for you, and I think it's for like 6 months or something, or maybe longer than that. But she said, "Just keep us posted on what you're doing and what's going on, and we're more than happy to work with you and help you, get through this and stuff." And they said, "Why didn't you come to us sooner?" And blah 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 blah. And I'm like, "Because I didn't think I had that option." You know what I'm saying? So, but they said, "Yeah, take care of yourself first. Your job will be here when you get back." Blah 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 blah. So I sign in to a mental health slash substance abuse crisis place about 45 minutes away. I signed myself in there on a Thursday. And actually, before that, the day before that, on Wednesday, after I came home from work, like, I made a post, like, I took a picture of myself in the mirror, like, you know, 50 pounds overweight, just a shell of my former self. You can look in my eyes, like, just how there was just nothing behind my eyes, like, at that point in time in my life. And I spelled it out to my friends, like, "Look, this is me, unapologetic and raw. Like, I need to go get some help. Like, I'm going away for a little while. If you're somebody that prays and believes, then please pray." And, what I'm saying, like, for me, because I need all the help I can get right now. Like, I don't, I've got to go do something. So, and I just told them I'd appreciate prayers and whatever. And, like, I went, came home. I was there for 2.5 days. I read the book Happy, Happy, Happy by Phil Robertson uh, twice in there, because that was the only book that I found that was, interesting enough to me to read. And, like, that really kind of shook me up to read what he went through and him and Miss K went through, and, like, how he was like this big drunk and, ran far away from God, and, like, was really this terrible person or whatever back then. And then he sobered up and he found God, and, like, I mean, look what the Lord blessed him with, right? So it's like that gave me a little bit of hope. And I also had some visions while I was in there, the 2.5 days I was in there. God showed me what was going to happen if I did not, you know, stick with getting clean. If I didn't, start better myself, he showed me that, I'm saying, the next time I went out, that I was going to die. Like, that was, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what was going to happen. And that was enough to scare me, to scare me straight, basically. I guess is a good way to put it. So after 2.5 days, I was going crazy in there, pacing up and down the hallways, and I was like, "When do we have these teledoc health visits again that y'all told me about when I got here?" "Oh, we do those every Saturday morning." "Can I get one of those, please?" Like, "Yeah, what do you want to talk to the doctor about?" "I want to go home." Like, "You've not been here the full 72 hours." I don't care. I want to go home. I've seen the things that I need to see. I've had the visions and the epiphanies and stuff. I know what I need to do to fix myself. And I'm just wasting time standing in here pacing up and down the freaking hallways 85 times a day or whatever. So they were like, "Okay, well, you have to sign an AMA form. You realize all this and blah, 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 blah," and all this stuff. I was like, "Yeah, I don't care. Like, just get me out of here." And so I had the teledoc health visit, signed my AMA form. They gave me, my clothes and everything. I changed out and I left. And on the way home, I basically told God, I said, "All right, God," I said, "if you're there," I was like, "you've brought me this far." I said, I was basically like, everything that I've done in my life to this point has gotten me here, which is nowhere. you know, um, so I'm done. Like, I'm done trying to do things my way. So, I was like, here I am. do with me what you will, like you tell me where I'm supposed to go because I'm tired of trying to do this by myself. And, it's pretty much, I mean, just been hit the ground running ever since then, really. Like I said, I was overweight. When I went in there, I weighed 255 and my blood pressure was like 180, 185 over like 110, 115. And so I was like, one of the things I knew I needed to do was like start walking to get some because I was very sedentary and active addiction. Like I said, you isolate and you just lay around and get high or whatever, the whole time. Like I wasn't very active for anything. So I knew I had to do that. So I started walking every day, started out by half a mile. Um, and as I did that every day, I started to notice not only did it have, you know, good physical, what I'm saying, like effects for me or whatever, walking to help lose weight and get my heart in better shape to get in better shape and everything. But it was doing numbers for like just how much clearer, what I'm saying, like I could think and like the mental aspect of it was. And I was like, dang, I was like, this is pretty freaking awesome. Like going outside, like I was like, and started to get that after a couple months. It was like almost like you get that childlike wonder kind of back into your head and like your attitude and stuff like that. I mean, I really did a complete 180 like for those 2 days, like 2.5 days that I was in there. The way I like to compare it to is like, uh, what video games did you grow up with? Did you grow up like Nintendo generation? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So what I equate those 2.5 days to was like when you were about to die on the old Nintendo games, you reach up, you hit the reset button, what I'm saying, to start the game over, like, that's
Mhm.
what I equate that to, and, I mean, like I said, it's been balls to the wall since then. I used to eat out, like, 8 to 12 times a week out of 20 meals, you know what I'm saying, and was really overweight, my blood pressure was terrible. I used to drink 8 to 10 sodas a day. I cut all of that out, like, within the first month and dropped, I think, 10 pounds just from cutting all the sodas out of my life alone. Like, and I still am like that today. Like, if I go out to eat at a restaurant somewhere or whatever, I'll have a sweet tea to drink or something. But other than that, like, it's water and protein shakes after I get out of the gym. But like, that's it. My blood pressure is now down to like 150 over 90. I now weigh like 200 and, well, the other day when I weighed myself, I weighed 225, but I was down last year. I had lost 40 pounds. I was down to 215 last year.
Mm.
So, but I guess going back to the gym these last 3 months, I've gained a little bit more muscle back. And plus, I quit vaping. So that probably put on a little bit of weight too. But I mean, I feel the best I've ever felt in my life, really, like right now, like where I'm at, like, and just, I mean, it's been an amazing journey for sure, and I'm eager and excited to see where, this path is still gonna continue to lead me to, because 'cause I'm just getting started. Like, I'm only 2 years in, like, I don't know where I'm gonna be when I'm 5 years, 10 years clean, you know what I mean? But, like,
Mhm.
the sky is not even the limit. I mean, to me right now, I see nothing but open road and blue skies, and it's just, just go.
That's so cool. Yeah. I mean, what an incredible journey. And so not everybody goes down the path that you went down, right?
No.
Where they're able to exit and kind of go on a whim and a prayer. You know what I mean? I know you had a plan um in your eyes that you just or in your mind that you just couldn't be there anymore, right? And
Mhm.
it wasn't for you, but you knew what to do afterwards. So you were able to, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were able to see what was going on in there while you were getting help and knew how to take that outside of there instead of just
Yeah.
staying in there. And most people, I don't know, would be there for months, I would think, if,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are, yeah.
okay, and they would come out, and I guess they would get clean, and then, they might end up doing the same thing over and over again because they unfortunately, I'm gonna say that I think they just go back to the people that they know, and that's it, right? And so
A
that's the
lot of
crowd that
times,
hang
yeah.
around. Yeah.
A lot of times, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And like I said earlier, you've got to, when you want to get clean and you're really serious about it, like you've got to change the nouns in your life. And that's a big thing that we talk about in the recovery community. You've got to change the people, the places, and the things that are in your life. Like, because you can't go to rehab if it's for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, if it's for a year, you can't go to rehab and sober living and expect to leave that place and go right back to the same environment. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, and that really is a big problem. Like not a lot of people have good places, safe places to be able to come back to. I was lucky enough that my parents let me come back here to get back on my feet. I mean, if not, like I probably wouldn't still be here. I
Yeah.
mean, I would have been another that statistic by now.
Mhm.
So like, but you've got to want it bad enough too. It's really about how bad do you want it. Like I've read a quote somewhere that said, can't remember who said it, but it they said if you're interested in something, you'll do it when it's convenient or when it's easy. When you're committed to something, you're going to do it regardless. And like that to me, like I had just had it. You know what I mean? Like that switch and flipped in my mind, and I knew that it was do or die. You know what I mean? I mean, God showed me like if you go back to the way you're living, like you're gonna die. Like that's what's gonna happen. And I didn't want that. I mean, the only thing that kept me going on those drives that I told you about earlier that I never intended on coming back from, the only reason I came back is because of the pictures in my mind of the look on both my boys' faces when they heard the news of what had happened to me. And it was like, and something else just deep inside me just said, go home, hold on one more day, and I did that for a long time, and when I got clean, first got clean, it was really more for them than it was for me. But like now it's for like all of us now, really. I mean, because I love my life that I have now. And it's taken like I've went through a lot to get to this version of me. And like where I'm comfortable enough at work to like be singing songs on the radio and like I can't carry a tune to save my life. Okay. But like I will sing out of tune and goofy and whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter if it's Queen, Bob Seger, Leonard Skinner, I mean, whatever, like because we listen to classic rock. Like, but I walk through the tool room and like, sing all off key and goofy and whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, I've told the guys there, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't like my singing, you've got earplugs, you've got earmuffs, like, put them on. Like this, you have to deal with this until I don't work here anymore because this is who I am. Like, and
Mhm.
you only live once, so like, you might as well be happy. Like, I'm not. I used to be the real serious guy at work all the time. Like, I've already had that role, like, brr, and not like to joke around and stuff. Like now, hell, I joke around and I'm like happy go lucky and stuff. And like one of the guys at work was like, how do you stay in such a good mood all the time? Like how are you this happy go lucky? Like, is your life that great? And I'm like, I mean, my life's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, because I could be dead, or I could be locked under the jail somewhere. I mean, so like it could always be a whole lot worse. Like, could my life be better? Well, hell yeah, it could be, but it could also be a whole lot worse, or I could not be here. So, you know, I've got thousands of things to be grateful for. I've probably got thousands of things for me to be, gripey and in a bad mood and pissed off about all the time too. But like, why? Like why walk around pissed off all the time? Like it's not doing you any good for sure. Like I like being in a good mood. To me, it doesn't take as much energy to be in a good mood, really. You know what I'm saying? I think us as humans, like we're naturally supposed to be like, happy go lucky kind of, creatures or whatever, and not walk around just zombified or just, like gripey all the time, but
Right. I hear you. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you got to a great space. You're connecting with more people. You're definitely supporting, helping others. And so could you share how people can connect and find out how you can help them?
yeah. So I've got a website and I'll send it to you. Well, I sent it in for the book, but is there a thing we can
You
put it
could
in?
I'll
underneath
take
that.
it. Just name what's the website?
Okay, it's dope, DOPE, the number 2, hope, HOPE.net, and there's no www, it's just HTTP colon slash slash whatever, like, and then
Yeah.
so that's my coaching website, and then you can look me up on YouTube. That's, uh, all capital letters. It's at dope underscore the number 2 underscore hope, and that's all capital letters. That's on YouTube, and then Facebook and Instagram, it's Andrew.Lidman84.
Awesome.
So, and then, I volunteer at a sober living house every Tuesday and Thursday. I go over there and hang out with the guys and share my experiences. I let them pick my brain. Like, what I'm saying, there's some days we have some, you know, like heavy conversations. And then there's other days like where we just sit around and we watch stuff on Tubi TV or watch a movie or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just whatever they want to do. Like when I celebrated 2 years back on February 3rd, I specifically went to Food Line and bought a cake for this. And I had them write happy second soberversary on it. And I took it there and I told them that it was mine, you know what I'm saying? But I did that for them to, it's like, a visualizing thing of like seeing what is possible, if they stick with their sobriety and they do the work. I told them, I said, look, I said, this could be you in another year or 2 years coming back to the Hope Center to celebrate with the guys that are here at that time. Or you could be getting this cake and taking it home and celebrating with your wife and your kids and your family. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
so and I've also got the Dope to Hope brand that I've launched. Um, I've got t-shirts. All the proceeds from the shirts, go to directly back into the recovery community, whether that's buying supplies or things like that that they need at sober living homes or paying for somebody's treatment and stuff like that. So, and that's dope to hope dot myshopify.com too on that one. So where you can find the shirts at. So and they're $20 a piece plus whatever the shipping is. So
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put all that in the show notes so it'll be available for everybody.
okay.
So I ask everybody one question at the end. So, what are three key things you've learned and used along your journey?
Three key things. um, I mean, to just keep moving forward, like we have this saying in the recovery community, and you see it a lot, one day at a time, you know, and that's really all we can do. And some days, especially early on for me, some days it was like 1 minute, 1 hour, you know, a couple hours at a time. It wasn't even a full day at a time for me yet, but like, you know, life is not going to wait for you and time's not going to wait for you regardless. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't matter if you stay stuck standing in the same place, why not keep moving forward with it? So like just keep moving forward, don't matter if you're running, walking, crawling, crawling on your belly or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Puking your guts out, whatever. Like just keep moving forward. Um, the other one is, get outside. That's one of my biggest things, like get outside, like movement is medicine, like, and that is the real, like, that's a 1,000% true. Like I can testify to that because I'm proof. Like getting outside and walking and like going to the gym, doing some kind of exercise. It doesn't have to be for hours. You don't have to run marathons or anything like that either. Like getting outside, it doesn't matter if you walk up and down your yard or your driveway for, what I'm saying, like 15 minutes a day or something. Just get outside, touch some grass, get some fresh air, some sun on your face. That does a lot more wonders to me. And, it does for me like, a lot better than what any antidepressant has ever helped me with before in my life. Like, and then number three is just, find God. I guess, or whatever you want to believe in, your whatever your higher power is, you know what I mean? Like find that and rekindle and build that relationship because, early on it wasn't really God that I was talking to. I was more like one of those like, like the universe or whatever. And like then I figured out, why pray and talk to the universe when you should be praying and talking to the one that created the universe, right?
Mhm.
And ever since I made that switch, over the last like 9 or 10 months or whatever, like it's been a game changer, learning, the attitude of gratitude. That's another big one. Like when you learn and you look at, like, for me, every morning on my way to work, um, I used to rock out like heavy metal headbanging stuff to get me pumped up and just kind of used to just kind of wing my days or whatever. Like nowadays, I ride in silence. I list 10 things I'm grateful for every morning. I pray for the people that need prayed for. And then I set my intentions for the day. And I say, and at the end of it, when I'm pulling in the parking lot, I'm like, all right, let's go in here and have a great day. And I go have a great day. It doesn't matter how bad the machines run or how bad something tears up at work. Like I'm there for 8 hours. You know what I'm saying? I go in there and I have a great day, like regardless, like it doesn't matter. And doing those things and staying in that attitude of gratitude and setting your intentions like through the day has been a game changer for me. Like over the last several months, like I know I can feel it every day. And then I do the same thing, you know what I'm saying? Last thing I do before I go to bed, as I'm laying here before I close my eyes, I do the same thing. I list 10 more things that I'm grateful for. Most of them are stuff that's happened over the course of the day. And then, again, I pray for the people that need it. And then I say, help me sleep, like I pray that I wake up again in the morning, you know what I'm saying? So I can have another day to serve you, blah, 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 whatever. And then I go to bed. Like, so you go to bed with a clear conscience, you wake up feeling that way. Like it's been phenomenal.
That's awesome. And those are 3 great things. So I'm glad you shared them with us, and hopefully somebody can listen and carry that along with them too. So Andrew, I am so grateful that you came on, you share your journey, grateful to see that you're part of the book, and I'm excited to
Yes.
see what you write in that chapter. And thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me. I definitely appreciate it. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on your podcast and to be a part of the book. Like yeah, that's going to be an awesome project right there. Like I'm looking forward to it, to see
Yeah.
what all the things that you have in store for us.
Oh, you'll find out. Don't worry.
No. All right, good deal, man. Thank you.
You're welcome.